Let's look at how you could build a REST view command then, looking at something like a work item. So we're looking at the Focal Point RTC integration, and we're going to look at the fields for an RTC work item. So I have here a link to a plan item, a work item in RTC, and I'm going to copy that link location because I'm going to use that integration link attribute value, so basically the resource URL for this work item, in my REST view command. So when I go to the REST client view command, I need to add a new view command. I need to select the view where this command will be invoked from, and I have a lot of views here. It's good to do this before you have too many views. I'm just going to pick the all features view. Okay, I'm going to give the command a name. I'm going to sync values from plan item. I'm going to get some values from the RTC plan item and bring them back to update values in Focal Point. So I'll say synchronize. I need to say which friend I'm talking to. So here I'm talking to this RTC server that I've set up. And I'm going to say which attribute I'm going to use in this command to find the target. So we're using the link to plan item. That's where the link to the RTC work item will be. And then I need a URL to get a representation of that work item. So I'm going to use that URL that I copied a minute ago for that work item. Now before I can get the template XML, I do need a couple of headers defined. So I'm going to add those right now. Accept application/RDF plus XML. Content type, same value, application, make sure you type it right, RDF plus XML. And we'll use this. You don't always need to, but the OSLC core version we'll say is 2.0. That's the version that's being used right now. If RTC ever upgraded to a different version of OSLC, then this would ensure that your values will come back represented the same way. Okay, so I have those 3 headers defined, and now I can click Get Template XML. If I click that button before I define the headers, it would give me an error message. It wouldn't work. Okay. So now this is a representation of that work item and all the values that it has. And I need a root XPath. I'm just going to pick the basic one and select it. And now I'm going to say what attributes map to what attributes. So this can be very, very simple. So for example, maybe I want to update the title. I'm just kind of arbitrarily making this up. So let's see if I can find the title. So here you can see that I have a couple of options for title. And if I hover my mouse, I can see the value. And that one actually looks like the one I probably want. But let's look at what these other ones are. Oh, the short title is well, we don't want a parse type, but the short title is this plan item 91. Well, that's not going to help me too much. So I would take the title and I would map that. And then let's see, let's map the due date. And again, you can see how I can search here. And I don't want the data type. I want the actual date. Okay. And now maybe I want, let's see, I want the % complete. So there's my plan item work completed. So let's look over here, complete. Well, there's no complete. Right, because there is no actual attribute in RTC that carries the completion. In fact, what it is a progress tracking resource. So some of these elements are actually resources in and of themselves. They aren't a specific value. And if you actually hover your mouse over the thing that doesn't have the resource, the progress tracking, you can see that it's really just a pointer to the resource title, right? The resource identifier. So this is the the OSLC way to identify the progress tracking, and then this is the actual resource itself, the URL, that points to the specific resource associated with this work item. And so that means we're going to need to do a little bit more work to get at them. The same is going to be true for some things like, say, state, which is, again, a resource because in RTC, as you can see here, the state is actually part of a plan item workflow. So it's built. It's got a literal value that gets built. The same is true of some attributes like priority. I just need to type it over here, right? Where the priority, you can see it's an enumeration value. Again, it's a literal. So there's more work to be done there, and we'll look at that in another video. But meanwhile, we can take the ones that we've mapped. Now, we are using a date attribute from RTC, so we need to make sure that the date attribute here is correct. And this is basically correct, but in actual fact, this is the fully complete way that RTC represents dates. So we'll make sure that that's set. We'll talk about the request parameter table in a separate video, and we've already looked at the request header mapping. So coming down now to the scheduler, where we could specify to run this command automatically on a specific schedule so that no one has to interfere with it. And this is especially great if you have a lot of attributes that you don't want users to update, but you want to update with these commands, so you can have views that users don't ever look at, where the commands run against them. Or in this case, I'm not going to schedule it. I'm just going to save it, and we'll invoke it from the view itself manually. There it is, sync values from plan item on all features. So if I go to the all features view now, I should see up here an item for sync values from plan item. That's the new one I just created. If I use this button here, I'm going to run it for all of the elements in this view. And if I apply a filter, it's only going to be for the ones that are filtered. If I select to run it from here, then it will only run for this particular element. Okay, so that's how the REST view command works. And of course, as we saw, you could schedule it so that I don't even have to implement or to run it automatically. And I can also, whoops, actually, I'll go back here. I can also add a batch view command. So again, I would select the list of views from which to invoke it. Let's say all features again. I give it a name. And then I can add from the list of view commands that are already defined for this view. Okay, so they're not just any commands, it's the ones for this view. And I can add those together so they would run in sequence. And then again, I can select to either run those on a schedule, or I could invoke them manually from the pull-down menu as we saw before. And I, in fact, have a batch command for my projects, and you can see here that it has a different heading. So they're separate out from the individual commands, but they're invoked the same way, and again, for all elements or just for the specific element. And so that is how you create and invoke REST view commands and batch commands. Thank you.